Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Loreweek. Doing things a little bit flipped today, because I want to talk about show news last, and I want people to weigh in on that, because, well, by the time the VOD goes live, it'll be too late, so, you know, I kind of want people to be involved in the vote. So, let's talk about random news. I'm sure absolutely none of you care, but, one of the weird things that happened is that some of the European football clubs are forming their own league. Now, I'll admit I haven't had a chance to really look into this. It's just a really weird decision. I don't know what they're thinking with that one. There's been some arguments about the financial side of things and how much money who makes from what, but overall the whole thing is just kind of weird, like I said. I don't have anything else to add to that. Like I said, this is random news. But that's okay, because we've got more random news ready for you. Let's talk about some minor stuff here. The Avengers, the game, has lost its creative director. And what's really funny about this, I did a little digging into this, of course. It's not even like a major thing. It was just, yep, alright, he's shuffling over back to the Naughty Dog studio, and that's it. Okay. Now, to be clear, this may or may not mean anything. Most people are like, he's jumping ship because the game is doomed. Not necessarily. Something that is unfortunately, or fortunately common, depending on how you look at it, is, alright, I'm going to work on this project. Okay, project's done. Now I'm going to hand it off to someone else for maintenance, for upkeep, and for updates. And then I'm going to move on to the next project. So it's entirely possible that this is just that. After all, I don't think we need any additional excuses to make fun of Marvel's Avengers. Speaking of losing directors, now this one's a little bit different because Jeff Kaplan left Blizzard Activision, or Actiblizzard, or Black Division, whatever you want to call it. It's all good. This is, I hate to say this, because in my mind I'd love to think, yes, die, Actiblizzard. But the harsh truth is that this could mean absolutely nothing as well. It is entirely possible that Mr. Kaplan has just decided to move on, right? We have had no word of him joining any other studios, so this might actually be retirement, unlike many of the other Blizzard developers and creative staff, which we've talked about, who all, have gone on to do other things. Not just Dreamhaven, but, several of them have gone on to do their own things. So, Kaplan may just be retiring. I thought about doing a whole piece on Kaplan, because he has been a major name in game design and at the MMO space since the 90s. Since he was called Tiggle, for those of you who know what that means. And so that's not really that surprising. But all I'll have to say is that Kaplan was a cool dude. He was a huge geek, and he was an MMO geek, and he was really big on two things: boss design and class variety. Those are the two things he always championed back in the day. And while he didn't always succeed, and he has certainly made his mistakes, those have been his wheelhouse for the better part of the last 20 years. And he's a huge geek, and he's rather genuine, cool dude in general. So I wish him well, whatever it is he ends up deciding to do. Speaking of people shifting projects, this one actually pissed me off just a little bit. I'll admit there's some personal bias involved here, but it still pissed me off because we have received news that Michael Dorn is coming back to Star Trek. Mobile game. For those of you not aware, there is a mobile game. And near as I can tell, it's not Mobage. It is on the Apple Arcade. But there's a mobile game called Star Trek Legends. Haven't had a chance to play it because it's a mobile game and it's on Apple Arcade. But that's what Dorn has come back to do, is to... Anyways, that's whatever at this point. Yeah, what the shame of it is, considering that Star Trek Online is currently going through a Klingon-centric arc, that's what I was figuring was happening. That Dorn was coming back to, finish up some lines and do some work for STO. Dorn has done work for STO before, so that wouldn't really do that. Holy crap, Ciela, 3 years. Thank you. Ah, shoot, and I'm being interrupted, but I'm still thankful to both of you. But first, to Ciela, 3 years. Thank you for supporting me for 3 years. I was having, I don't know what to call it, a crisis of confidence this morning. You know, why does anybody watch me kind of a thing. I know, you don't want to hear me whine, but I don't understand. I don't understand why you watch me. I don't understand why you're still here and why you're so awesome. And that includes you, Blue Wolf Alex. Thank you for that sub. Towards Trails of Cold Steel 1. Yeah, I was gonna say, you're over the 3-year mark at this point, Blue Wolf. You see why I said that. You see why that prompted me. I'm just like, thank you, both of you. Ciela, you didn't say what you want to put that towards, though. Bard's Tale, you got it. Bard's Tale. My goodness. Well, I mean, he is amazing. I think we can all agree on that. Sony has reversed their decision about the PSN, kind of. Now, okay. This is the only random topic I have anything to discuss, okay? This is just a kind of a little thing. So, some of you may or may not be aware, I've actually been reporting on this for weeks at this point because it's relevant, that they were shutting down the PSN for everything before the PS4, okay? They have announced, oh no, we've decided to keep the PSP and the PS Vita and the PS3 PSNs going. PS. Now, I think it's the PS3. Shoot, I actually have this here. Oh yeah, it's Vita. I'm right. PS3 and PS Vita. I'm right. Okay, that's cool. That's cool. Now, some people have been saying, clearly there were contract issues with regards to them pulling the plug on pre-existing developers with regards to the Vita. Clearly, this is because there's been so much fan backlash and we've changed their minds. I don't agree with either of those mentalities, to be completely honest. Neither of those, I mean, I'm not saying those didn't happen, but if I was a gambling man, I would not put money towards either of those eventualities. I would put money towards Platty being awesome. Thank you, Platty. Again, as always. Now stay awake. Now you don't have to. You need to feel better. You got the hug, right? Yeah, you're already getting there. I think it's a marketing ploy. That is my theory. And if you were paying attention, I've actually already said that. The difference is, I've said this twice recently. I thought that the PSN shutdown was a marketing ploy, and I thought that the Mario limited time release thing was a marketing ploy. Now, the Mario thing could still be a marketing ploy. That is possible. If we get news sometime in the next few weeks or months of, hey, we're totally going to be releasing, Mario 64 on the Switch by itself, then call it. But as of the moment, the Mario thing was just, who knows what the hell Nintendo's thinking. But I'm pretty sure the PSN thing was a pure marketing ploy. This feels way too planned out and way too advantageous. And let me explain, too, because I say ploy, and that has negative connotations. So let's remove those connotations for a second and just speak of this in a neutral fashion with some of the best music in the universe. Sorry. So let's assume for a moment that they're evil, greedy people. Very easy to assume because they are. What would probably be happening then is they're doing this in order to specifically provoke people into, buying a bunch of stuff in order to get their money that they wouldn't have otherwise gotten, especially since it's probably not going to be on sale. Okay, that's cool. Let's assume they're not greedy, evil people, which is easy to assume because there are people who work even in money circles who are not greedy and evil. So, the CMOS thing, they're gonna firmware that. I almost guarantee it. I would be astonished if they don't. Anyways, this is marketing data. It's a little scummy, but the harsh, blatant truth is that you kind of have to manipulate your customers to get them to give you honest feedback. This is something that many, many, many people have seen with regards to television, with regards to movies, with regards to games, with regards to books, with regards to concerts. People tend to pull these kind of stunts so they can get data. What they have done is they have seen exactly how much interest there is in the PSN in like a vertical slice, effectively. Because they're like, hey, we're shutting down the PSN. And all they have to do is track who buys what, where, see how much storage is being dealt with, see how much throughput is being dealt with, and they can actually get some hard data that's like, okay, this now tells us exactly the ceiling of what the PSN's use is for the PS3 and the PS Vita. And yeah, as FN Craig says in chat, if they just sent out a survey, to be blunt, they wouldn't get the same response. People are different when I've talked about this so many times. There's a difference between someone who's like, hey, I'd like such and such, and someone who's like, hey, here's money for such and such. Plenty of people, a huge majority of people, will say something with regards to feedback or like a survey or a focus test group or whatever, that honestly they don't really mean. This is something we've seen time and time again. How many times has there been some big, fan-pushed movie or game that has come out that sold terribly when it actually did, because of the majority of those people weren't willing to put their money where their mouths were? This is actually one of the reasons why I require you all to put money towards runs rather than just interest. Because we did the just interest thing, but even ignoring the fact that we have tactile data on the matter, that's how that works. If I was just like, yeah, go ahead and suggest games, that list would be triple the current size it is. And the overwhelming majority of it would have 0 put towards it, Now, again, I'm not trying to defend Sony on this. It's just, if I was interested in gauging the PSN's actual value and purpose, then, yeah, to be completely honest, this is the kind of thing that I would probably do. I would have done it a little bit differently in terms of how I would have executed it. I feel like their execution was sloppy. But this is the kind of thing I would pull. Like, yeah, we're pulling the plug on the PSN in 3 months. All right, track all the data. And I would have people whose full-time job it was to track every little bit of information that we have access to via the PSNs, the 3 PSNs that are being active. And see what happens. In fact, actually, I would probably have them track the other PSNs as well, because PS4 has its own PSN. I'm getting really tired of saying PSN. Holy crap. Then, looking at the data, okay, keep it up. And of course I would keep it up, because, as I already discussed, shutting down the PSN is stupid. There's simply too many long-term benefits to doing so, and it costs them virtually nothing to do so. So, again, I would pull this stunt, but I would have no intention of actually pulling the plug, because there's no reason to. Other than to do this. So, yeah, that's what I think happened. My opinion. Take your pick. It's funny, I bought several games on the PSN. Now, granted, that was kind of a, this is my job that I need to make sure I can continue doing kind of a thing, and all that was business expenses, but still. There's my feedback, Sony. Alright, how many people do we have? Can someone count chat real quick? Because I don't have access to that on my end. I could just pull up my stream. But I want as many people here as possible for the upcoming Voot. So, you may notice that the Voot thing is over here. 60, that's it? God, nobody's here this morning. We're only 15 minutes in. That's part of the problem. Let's just ramble for a little bit. Let's ramble. Let some people stroll in. Because I want everyone to vote on this. And you're probably thinking, but I've already voted. New vote. New vote. The information on the old one is about as cohesive as it's getting. It looks like you all watch my streams pretty universally equally, so any day that is streamed or isn't streamed is apparently equal. Within a variance of like 3%. But yes, this is a new Voot. Please go Voot. I've already gotten 146 Voots as of this exact moment in time. which is pretty impressive considering all I did was mention it on Discord and Twitter, so that's cool. But yes, if you would please vote on that. You're probably going to be like, well, what's the videos? Well, as I say in the Voot, I'm not going to tell you the type of videos. That's the whole point of this, is to do this as blind as possible. Or I could say I'm discontinuing streaming forever, and then in a week start streaming again, and see what people... No, I'm kidding. See, that wouldn't work for me. It's an invalid approach. Plus, I would lose customer support if I did that, because I'm an individual, and so are you. Whereas Sony is actually gaining support for doing this, because now they look like the good guys. Oh yeah, we've decided to keep the PSN going. Telling you. So the audit process, I'll go ahead and talk about show stuff now, I suppose. Yeah, let's switch this over. So I've got the timestamp. Only if I review them, nerd picks. I mean, I could probably get away with, you know, claiming every video game I buy as a business expense. I don't feel like pushing my luck. My books are very tight when it comes to my accounting. And if an auditor actually did decide to come down on me, I could prove every single expense that's on there, so I'm not super worried about it. Show news. So the audit project is going well. It's been destroying my brain. I don't know how to properly explain what it's like to be like, okay, and just go down a list of, what is this? Hang on. 196 games, and effectively replay them in my head, rapid fire, over and over and over and over and over again. The boring part I finished Friday, which probably doesn't sound impressive, but that means it took me 3 days just to get the existing pluses and minuses categorized in the sheet. For the last couple of days, I have been going through and adjusting, adding pluses or minuses, depending on whether or not they should have been there. And you're probably thinking, well, wait a minute, why are you doing this? What's the whole point of the audit? You know, in a lot of cases, our standards have changed, first of all. But there's also the idea of, like, certain things just didn't occur to me. You know, sometimes it's like, well, you know, it didn't occur to me that the camera usage in, say, Drakengard was terrible. And it probably should have gotten a negative for that, because it didn't occur to me at the time to give it one. This is the whole benefit of having this sheet, and the point is, going forwards, to have this sheet for future games. This is why I wanted to get this done before we stream even more stuff. You know, it's like, because now, every future game, we can look at every single category we've got here and be like, okay, let's see. And just kind of go down the checklist to see if there's anything that I'm not thinking of. I say checklist, that's the wrong terminology, but you get the point, right? It's designed to prompt. You know, it's designed to prompt it. And of course, the phase I'm on right now, which is gradient, is gauging how good or bad something is relative to something else. So for example, I'm looking at camera right now on the spreadsheet, and Greedfall's camera is the worst camera I've seen in a video game of the ones we've reviewed. Because not only was it bad, but it was actually nauseating, if you'll remember. And there was no option to just turn that off. We had to mod it out. So that's the worst camera. So 3 negatives, cool. And then it's like, okay, well, what are some bad cameras? You know, worse than regular cameras. Well, we've got other cameras that have also induced nausea. We've got Donkey Kong Country 2 and Grandia Remastered, both of which did the same general problem. And so forth and so on. You get the idea. So that's the step I'm on right now, is the gradient. The next step will be dumping this ridiculously huge spreadsheet back into the various documents, which is just going to be boring, you know, data input work at that point. But that's where we're at with the audit. If I really pushed, I could probably finish the audit today, which brings me to the Voot. Now, one way or another, we're not starting streaming tomorrow, to answer Zach Taft's question from earlier, because I have a couple of things I need to get done. And I don't want to commit to something that is only like a 50% possibility. But one way or another, we're either going to be starting streaming sometime this coming week, or whenever I'm done. How many people are we up to? Can I start talking about this now? Yeah, this has been extremely mentally taxing. I don't want to oversell it or sound like boo-hoo. It's just, oh my god, there have been moments where I'm just like, okay, I actually need to just get up, walk, stretch a little bit, do the thing where I just kind of close my eyes and, I suppose, meditate. I don't know what else to call it, for a few seconds, just to completely mentally decompress, whatever you want to call that, because this has been extremely taxing. But I'm very pleased with the results. Oh, close to 90 people. Okay, so the Voot. Let's go ahead and talk about the Voot. Let's just say screw it. Because the thing is, I need you to vote on this now. This Voot will be closed today, basically. So if you're watching the VOD by chance, and I've gotten the timestamp properly. Oh, I meant to get a timestamp. Where's the timestamp? 20 minutes. 20 minutes. Let's put a timestamp with the 20-minute mark. So, Voot. Make sure you vote on the Voot that's up right now. But what is it? So I don't want to actually tell you what it is, because I don't know when it's going to happen. It's either going to happen, in the coming weeks or next year, because that's how I schedule things. Just type in !Voot, and you'll get a link. Also, in the YouTube VOD, there will, of course, be a link to it there as well. I'm trying to think how to phrase this. I'm sorry. I'm struggling for words here. So much of what I do is tabulated in terms of efficiency. Now, this isn't because I'm greedy, although I did get an argument. I'm sorry, I shouldn't share negative comments. I got a comment today telling me that I was being greedy with regards to my content. Anyways, sure. This isn't me being greedy, it's just me trying to be efficient with my time, is really what it boils down to. I have so much to do, and I need to part and parcel out every... I do it in 10-minute blocks, basically, throughout my whole day. And there's a little bit of leeway designed inherent into it, but for the most part, my schedule is extremely rigid, and I'm very proud of that. So the overwhelming majority of what I do is adherent to that schedule. That even includes like things that aren't related to the show, like time allocated for hanging out with friends, time allocated for helping my sister out and seeing my niece. All of that stuff is all part of that schedule. But this wouldn't be, for lack of a better way to put it. This isn't something that's monetized. This isn't something that you're paying for. This isn't something that requires a funding goal. This is just something I want to do. And I don't know what else to add to that. This is just a passion project. I've been wanting to do this for a while. Probably in about the 4-year range. This has been something I've been wanting to do. And recently, by which I mean within about the last month or so, I'd say about 2 months ago-ish, Pax and I were sitting down hammering out exactly how to practically do this. And then Lore Reloaded and I were also sitting down hammering out practically how to do this with regards to... Because you know how that works, right? An idea is neat and all, but it doesn't mean anything until you can implement it. And so we came up with a way to implement this which wouldn't be horrifically time-consuming, which was the main problem that was getting in the way, because the original idea would have been so horrifically time-consuming that it was just infeasible. I would have to take literally months off in order to do the previous idea, and that's just not happening. Not unless I win the lottery. And I'll admit, kind of in the back of my mind, that was the goal. It's like, I'm going to work on this thing once I don't need to financially rely on the show. Obviously, that hasn't happened, which leads us to here. Now, this is happening one way or another this year. It's either happening now, as soon as I finish the audit, or in November when we do the floodgate cycle, and I'll just bake it into that break. So that's really the choice. Do you want a larger break now, or a larger break in November from streaming? I say break, you know what I mean. A larger pause in streaming now, or a larger pause in streaming in November. And do you want this whatever it is thing to start going live soon, or sometime in January? And that's the basis of the Voot. Again, I don't really want to announce it yet, ignoring the fact that I want it to be a surprise. I really don't like announcing things in advance, as you're aware. I already feel bad about announcing the theater project, because, I announced that 3 years ago and it still hasn't come out. Still waiting on some lines on that one. But that's the basis of it. If anybody wants to give me any actual live feedback, you're more than welcome to, as to why you're voting in a particular way. I've already had several people tell me why they were voting the way they were voting. But like I said, this Voot is getting chopped off today. This is a one and done, so please make sure you vote if you have not had a chance to. I should also mention, while we're on the subject, just of show stuff, Lore Reloaded and I have already talked about the Star Trek Rewrite project, which we're basically putting on pause for about 4 months, give or take. At which point, that's going to become a more regular thing. That's so that his schedule can free up in a couple of ways, which, you know, it's up to him. And so that my schedule can free up a couple of ways, too. Because right now, working on the Trek Rewrite project is basically impossible with the current schedule. Right? I would have approximately 8 hours a week to work on it, which may sound like a lot. But that's spread out across the entire week and also would take the place of time that could be spent exercising, cooking, or hanging out with friends. Like, I love you guys, but I'd like to do something other than work with my life. Anyways. So yeah, once we get to that point, hopefully I'll pull back a little bit on stream time. That's something that's going to probably happen once we get through more of the queue. I've already talked about that. I'm not sure exactly how yet, but it is actually going to be something. I am going to pull back on the amount of time I spend streaming, and then that extra time will be spent on the Trek Rewrite project, and that'll probably become a regular thing. That'll become part of the schedule at that point. At least until November, when we hit the next Floodgate cycle. They're not even funded yet, Ailbird. Well, I mean, I don't have a live, Dream Whisper, but, you know. Cut down bathroom usage. I'm already pretty efficient with bathroom use. Bathroom. I keep wanting to say background. I'm good with background usage, too, but that's neither here nor there. And yeah, it's just a stupid little thing I want to do, I think, Craig. I'm like 99% sure no one's going to like it. And it's just going to be one of those, you know, 200 views on YouTube, no comments kind of situations. I'm pretty sure that's what this is going to be. I just don't care. Because, you know, this is something I want to do. And if other people like it, then that's bonus points. We'll see. So that's not a crown. That's actually a Colosseum that my niece made for an art project. She loves art stuff and creative stuff in school. And you can kind of tell, like, you can see the windows there, and it's got, like, the stands. And there's, like, a whole... You can't see it. I'm not going to get up to show it, but there's a whole little central area there where there's a Goomba right now. She is probably unaware of the fact that I have that. She's probably forgotten she even made it, but, you know. Anyways. And Dream Whisper, I appreciate the thoughts, but at this point, all I'm waiting for is Random's Kuja lines. Galtori is kind of done, actually, but... So, Random's Kuja lines and Raximus's Zidane lines, and that's it. Oh, YouTube's wonderful. By the way, real quick, and then we'll go ahead and start the MLP Streaminations. Real quick, this is funny to me. So, one of the things for the Audit project is I would occasionally pull up my own VOD of the game to actually see it. You know, it's like I have to see how a mechanic works, get it remember, or I'm trying to refresh my memory on a specific scene, or whatever, right? You know how that works. What's really funny is when I go to YouTube, and I'm like, okay, you know, Premiere run such and such, or Classic run such and such. Sometimes I would get my video as the first result. More often, I would get it as the third or fifth. If you ever wondered how much YouTube buries my channel, even when directly searching for the exact video file, and it would still be like, it's down there. You can watch this other dude, though. That actually really amused me. People wonder why I don't really lean on YouTube, or why I don't really consider YouTube my primary job. Stuff like that is why. Anyways. That makes no sense, Mike Kamano. Why would you search by... Wait a minute, that's true. It is sorted by relevance. You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right, Mike Kamano. This random dude is more relevant than I am.